Hello, hello. Welcome, mi beautiful people, mi gente bella. Welcome to another edition of Santana Says, where we talk about everything from roadblocks to relationships, everything in between, and the overall journey of life. I am excited as always to bring you another edition of the show, but I'm always extra pumped when we get to have a dope guest. So I am super excited. I'm gonna need y'all to get into this because I have the one and only Angela Flowers. Yes. But I think it's an incredible story that we have to share about how we cross paths and all the great things that we've been able to experience. But I feel like there's no one better to tell that story than the wonderful woman herself, who I get to give literal flowers to today. You have the last name. I think that is so beautiful and timely that you have, and appropriate that your last name is Flowers. So we are going to extend the stage, but I do want to remind everyone that this is still, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, but also Child Abuse Prevention Month. And so it is great to have not only a fellow advocate of that, but somebody who is definitely a champion in our community, does a lot of great things, and will be telling us more about that today. So, Miss Flowers, could you please let the great people know a little bit about you? Who are you? What you do?
All right. Well, thank you for having me first and foremost.
Yes.
Again, Angela Flowers. I'm a licensed independent social worker, so I am a mental health therapist. I'm a mom, first and foremost. I am a published author.
Hey.
Yes. But also just a mental health advocate, like you said. So
Definitely.
Go out into the community. It doesn't matter what age group, mental health. We all experience some form of mental health, and just talking about our wellness is so important and key that I enjoy just being able to support people's journeys.
Absolutely. And since we are talking about we can talk about a little bit of everything. I would love to learn more about, all parts. But speaking of child abuse prevention and just the importance of providing preventative work and all that, what would you say, how do you feel like you fit into that kind of work, and why is it so important to you?
I think first and foremost, when we're talking to youth, them understanding too what's considered abuse. Mm-hmm. So the prevention piece is educating them on different vocabulary, also making sure that they're aware of the community resources and the types of support and help that they can have, but constantly, if they are experiencing any form of abuse, equipping them with the coping skills and mechanisms that they need in order to get through situations if they're stuck into a situation that may not be as healthy for them.
Oh,
so I feel like just making sure we equip them with just forms of expression that are healthy.
Yep.
But then also too, having them to be able to identify who supports them. So who's in their support system.
Absolutely. I definitely think we can't do that enough. And that's actually an interesting but unfortunate reality I feel like that we face, is that a lot of our children don't know, though, that they're actually in abusive situations, and because they might have actually unfortunately experienced it at home, it's actually normalized.
It's normalized. And it's so funny that you said that. This afternoon, we were talking about healthy and unhealthy relationships with a group of 8th grade young men at Buer. And their conversation of what's considered abuse, it's just so eye-opening. Right. But to hear them talk about trust and respecting people's boundaries and respecting their property, making sure that if they're dating, the person isn't going through their cell phone, or that they're not doing that. They're not controlling how the person dresses.
Absolutely.
And I think the earlier we teach them what's considered healthy, and then what's a boundary violation, I think the more and more we're able to destigmatize just unhealthy relationships as they grow older. Absolutely. But it helps them, even so with this group of boys, it helps them to express themselves, because they said that a lot of times they're taught to hold things in because they're young men.
Oh, absolutely. See, and that's what I think we definitely can't. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation about that. And that's where the importance lies, because I just feel like, the ultimate unfortunate danger is that some of them end up holding too much in to the point where, they might end their life, or they might think that they have no other option, or that they are alone, when in fact it's just that, unfortunately we live in a society that says that. But it's also so sad, I think, that we do instill that, because to me it's such a strength. I would love to, and also even in a partner, I would love to have somebody who does communicate.
They communicate openly and honestly.
Absolutely. And has that emotional maturity, but also that vulnerability, but can do that in a healthy way.
And they're okay with feeling safe to drop the lines, to say, this is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on with me. And they feel comfortable to know it doesn't make you less manly, or it doesn't make you less womanly, you know, to do these kind of things and express yourself. This is just what healthy communication looks like.
Right. Absolutely. But that is interesting. You said too that it can go on both genders though too, because I definitely have heard so many students who will say that like I just don't know. I don't want to cry. Like, who does that? I don't want to, like, I don't need to be weak. I don't want my friends to see me in that way. I don't want to even be perceived as if it's not okay to actually feel how we feel.
Yeah. And a lot of them come from those environments though, those family environments. It may be we didn't hug growing up.
Oh, yes.
Or we didn't say I love you. So it feels uncomfortable, and it feels like, well, we just don't do that. We didn't do that. And so I'm seeing it more and more though with some of our females or people that identify as females saying like, I don't express that way. I just don't.
True. Right. That is very true. And then unfortunately what I see happening too though is that they very often, a lot of their needs are unmet and a lot of things are happening, but they're not realizing it's because of that lack of communication. They're not saying it, but then in turn, that's what happens when you don't express yourself though. Like nobody's able to properly respond.
Right. They can't read your mind, and they can't just know that this is what you needed or wanted because it wasn't expressed.
Not at all. But I do appreciate that is why like the blueprint is now being created for a lot of them, because it makes sense though. So like if you never had it, if you never got to see it, like life in a healthy way or like relationships, you know, in that way. And for a lot of parents, I don't even think they do it intentionally, by the way. Right. We're to be clear, we get that it's just passed down. Like it's a lot of like cyclical. For a lot of us, you know, they were more concerned about going to work. Ain't nobody, you know, got time to show emotions and do all these things. I'm trying to pay the bills. Like I'm more concerned about what I need to get done and like what's happening. But at the same time now, I just love that the students know how to do that, and that we can open up that new world to them, that like education that extends well beyond just what they're learning in the classroom.
And that's a great point, because too, I feel like this generation of young people are more open to talk about mental health and just talk about those things in general. Right. Before, like in my generation, you never heard young people say I'm depressed, or you never heard them say, I have anger issues or things going on. It just was something that wasn't communicated or talked about. It was more taboo. Right. But now they're embracing it more to say, hey, it's okay if I'm not okay.
Yes.
I know that I'm not. So now what?
Yes.
So I think they are more open now to receive help. Yes. And I think that's a breakthrough for us as mental health professionals, because the stigma attached to mental health with only people that are a certain type of way go to counseling or therapy, or they seek out services. I think a piece of the shame has been kind of lifted.
For sure. I know, I agree. And I'm glad that because it has been lifted and because there is now that unique opportunity for us to step forward and take advantage of that and like have that we can have those conversations, we could definitely educate and provide awareness. But also I'm glad we're helping with it, because if they don't get the information from us, they gonna get it somewhere else. And so I'm sure you've seen that, like, so because I will let them know in a heartbeat. I really did not have as many platforms as these kids have. Like they have to balance multiple pages. Like they actually have a really big image, if anything. Like a certain, you know, like on Instagram, they have all these different platforms and things, and they're getting a lot of information from it.
Overload.
Like, and too much of it. TikTok is another one that I'm just like,
And you know what it is too? Social media has come in and just destroyed people's self-confidence, their self-esteem, even images. But when you start to search for something, the platforms produce all of those things. So if I'm searching for something and I'm saying I'm depressed, now you get all these ads that are saying do this, that. So I think it can become overload too, depending on what you're searching for too.
This is true. Yeah. This is true. So yeah, you end up creating like your own virtual reality that they now feed into, and then will give you. But then that's also what I think was alarming to me to find out, that you can find like steps behind certain things. So like, and some students didn't realize too that the danger of like the certain things they post. So they were like trying to share about their mental health, and they use TikTok as, you know, as an example. So they were on there sharing that, but little did they know, like the students that were tuning in weren't necessarily just there to support. They were also getting ideas of like ways
of
to
what to do.
Yes.
Of
so I'm
what
like,
to do.
Y'all, this is not what it was meant to be for. But
it wasn't. It was to educate and to be an outlet for them to be able to share what was going on. But yeah, it does. If a person is in an unhealthy space, it can then give them confirmation of, maybe this was my sign. to do something or to do that or whatever. And so it can be very, very dangerous, which is why parents need to monitor.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Monitor social media platforms. If you have younger kids, too, that aren't old enough to be on social media, but we know that they are.
Oh, yes. Please
putting
do.
in some of those parental blocks and just like regulating the amount of time that they're on social media. And
I can't agree more. And as a parent myself, I've even honestly thought that I was one of those that I was like, oh no, but I don't need to, like, there's not much that they're going to find or like that they're going to know. And how would they even know to look for that or what's going to happen now? I found out very well that they're having very plentiful and rich conversations at school, and they will. If they don't already know about it, they're going to get the blueprint at school. So like they will find out through their friends, through all of that. So we need to do our due diligence to make sure that we can help curb it. Because I don't mind that they learn a lot of things, because I also do think, of course, there's a blessing in there too. Like technology also opens up a new world for them. You know, they could travel to a whole different country just sitting in their living room, you know, and like learn all these great things. But definitely there's got to be that balance between how much they see.
Yeah. So balance is definitely key.
Oh, I can't agree more. And so as a mental health, I'm also curious, like, so did you always know that you were going to end up in this kind of field, doing this kind of work, or like, where did that start?
You know what? I never went to school initially to be a mental health person.
Okay.
I went to school to be a doctor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I did that for 3 years.
Okay.
So I majored in pre-medical and biomedical engineering.
Wow.
At John Carroll University. And so I initially started off in that lane, and there was some discrimination and things going on behind the scenes that deterred me from advancing in that particular major. So I had got into my first psychology class.
Right.
Absolutely loved the professor, absolutely loved the class. And I was like, let me see what else I can do, but can I still graduate on time?
This is true.
So,
right. Don't want to waste all that.
So I didn't want to, and I wanted to graduate in the 4 years. I started taking more and more of the psychology and sociology classes, fell in love with it, ended up with a psych degree, not realizing I could do nothing with that 4-year psych degree. Wow. And I was like, either I go to grad school for psychology for 4 more years and I become a psychologist, which I later found out was just mostly testing and it wasn't the actual therapy, or I could go the other route of social work. Right. So when I went the other route of social work, I ended up at Case Western Reserve, and wonderful program. I got hands-on experience and immediately took the licensure and got licensed immediately by the time it was time to graduate. Okay. And went from there. So I've been in the field and been licensed for 20 years now.
Okay. No small feat there.
Yes.
Wow.
20 years, yeah.
Okay. So you never look back, clearly.
Never look back. I feel like it's my calling. Like, I naturally am a people person.
Yes.
I love to help people.
Right.
I'm a great listener. So it was natural, and it never feels like work to me. But initially, when I first became a mental health school social worker, it was draining because of the balance of not understanding that I'm taking in a lot of energy and a lot of people's problems and issues and those kind of things. And I'm empathetic already.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I'm a big crybaby. So all of that was weighing on me, and I was burning myself out. And I had to realize, you have to put a boundary in place for your own mental health that everything doesn't become too overwhelming. And once I was able to figure that out and figure out how to do it, it's not like work. I absolutely love all aspects of it. So when I initially started off, I was children and youth and families. So I only wanted to work with kids and teens. That was it. Okay. But as I look at my private practice, I have transitioned into working with college students, adults, and mostly seniors, which is interesting.
Wow.
So yeah, it's interesting because I'm like, I never wanted to do therapy with adults, but my clientele right now is mostly adults.
Wow.
And it's so interesting how it came about, because I've been in the field for so long that when I was in the schools, I'm working with teens, they become adults.
They do.
And then they seek me out. And then they have kids, and they're like, hey, can you work with my kid?
Right.
And then as they get older and they keep growing, they're referring me to other people that they know. Wow. But 60 to 70% of the referrals that our agency has received has been self-referrals from the kids identifying themselves for services or saying, you worked with my friend, can you work with me?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we don't even advertise the counseling piece at all, and we're always booked.
Okay, come on now.
Yeah.
So see, to the future counselors, clearly you're needed. So like,
Definitely.
come on now. You know what I mean? If you're thinking about it or considering it, but you also mentioned that population, the school social workers. We gonna go ahead and shout them out.
Come on, school social workers.
Unsung heroes. Because
Definitely.
yeah, and I agree with everything you said. And I mean, you know, being within that, I can definitely attest that it is a lot. And I do think that there's a lot of, and that's why I always love to shout out any educators. Really, you know what I mean? Anybody that's out here, where you serving youth in any way, you are definitely celebrated here because we do realize there is a lot, but it is, like you said, it is that empathy piece though. I don't think I can echo that enough, that especially when you care, I mean, because you already get into this because you care, because you already care about youth, you know what I mean, and you want to help others, and you want to be able to, like, you know, be part of that positive change, but in the process, yes, you do take a lot. And so I think that that's, you know, an incredible thing to point out, you know, that you can do that. But I think it's also awesome that in the process of doing that, you still pivoted and found a way to still impact others, but not let yourself go down that path of burnout, because that burnout is real now.
Burnout is too real. Listen. Your body will tell you. If you don't sit down, it will sit you down.
Yeah,
I'm telling you. And so being able to just identify those key signs of what burnout looks like is important, but also recognizing too when you're not 100% taking care of you, because it's going to show up.
Yes, this is very true. And I just think our happiness is too expensive, y'all. So like, I think we should definitely be paying more attention to that. And I will say, I mean, I'm only saying that now with more authority because I haven't always done it, you know? So I do feel like in the past, like I have been guilty of, you know, slaving away, doing what I needed to do, and then like sacrificing my happiness in the process and not realizing like, oh, I can actually get both. Like I did not think, I didn't know that I could do that. I ain't gonna lie. I thought that was like a revolutionary thought. I'm like, that's reserved for people that can afford to do that or like have it in certain ways. No, do not count yourself out, y'all. You are worth that. You know,
definitely. So, you can manifest it, you can put the work in, but you definitely don't have to burn yourself out and overwork.
No, not at all.
It's a balance. It's about balancing.
It's definitely a balancing.
Time management is important.
Right.
Prioritizing what's most important and hitting those things, but also definitely your happiness, so that if you're a giver and a pourer, you can pour into those as you're pouring back into you.
Oh, amen. Hello. Y'all need to write that down. But yes, but agreed. And I do think it's something that's easy to forget, because it is easy to write off. And also when you do keep yourself busy and you do all those things, and when you're already in a service-oriented role, that is what I think we forget the most. That's the first thing to like not think about. But it's also hard to show up for others. Like we definitely got to make sure we do not forget about home base. You know, like coming back, grounding ourselves and doing what we can, and like reminding ourselves, you know, and pumping ourselves back up to be able to go back out there and then still
definitely. Because when you don't show up for you, what's going to happen is you're going to become more irritable.
Oh yes. Ooh, guilty.
You're going to be, it's natural. It's natural because it's more of like you're taking away from you and just a piece of your happiness, but also it's more of like, as I'm giving, I still need to replenish myself as well. So I'm able to reciprocate that and just give. And so you definitely got to take care of you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Start here first. Yes.
Start here first.
Right.
And then you'll be able to give help more others. Out. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I definitely think what was cool about what you shared is that, so I heard private practice, but then I also hear this programming that you do. So I know that those might be different entities, but for people who don't know how you do all that. So what are the two things those two different buckets that you have?
Okay. So the two different buckets, programming is what I love and enjoy. Hey. So with the programming, that's being able to go into the school, whether it's myself, people on my team, being able to have programs that focus on social and emotional learning. So responsible decision making, relationship building skills, actually self-awareness and our self-esteem, and identifying who we are and where we're at in our journeys. But then also too, being able to manage how we feel. So our emotions. So we incorporate all of the social and emotional learning techniques into programming, and we do programming K-12. And so it's based on the need of the individual school or the after school program. Okay. And we customize the curriculum based on that population. So it's not like a ready-made approach. Yeah, we have a shell of a program, but then we'll go in and say, oh no, these students need this, this, and this. And then we create and wrap around those programs based on what they say too as what they want to work on. So we always typically interview the students beforehand to get their buy-in into programming so that when we start, there isn't any kind of funny business. It's like you chose to be here.
Yes,
You
exactly.
selected to be here.
Right. You wanted
but
this.
then this is what you all said you want to work on. So
Correct.
as the curriculum goes, this is things that when else do you have a chance to say what you want to learn?
Right. Right. Own
And
it.
you have that authority to be able to say, yeah, this is what I want. This is what I need to work on. This is what I'm interested in. And then it's created for you.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
So the programming piece is key. We always make sure that there is coping skills embedded into any programs we do, whether it's our entrepreneurship programs, our chess programs, whether it's our gender specific programming.
Right.
There's some type of skill base. We don't make it feel like therapy.
Right.
So we have cool names for the program so the kids don't even recognize that
There you go.
There's a piece of psychotherapy in there that's
Absolutely.
embedded.
Right.
Because we're educating them constantly, letting them have discussions, letting them think about what some of these questions are. And then also there's some type of engagement. But at the end of the day, we want them to be able to rationalize or have some kind of skill to where now I can think about my decisions before I do them.
Right.
Now I can calm
key.
myself down before I hit somebody.
Yes, yes.
I can walk away. I can take some deep breathing techniques. Right. So it's giving them and equipping them with those skills, but also too giving them a voice.
Come on now.
So allowing them to know that creative writing or self-expression or those kind of things are healthy coping skills, but it's helping them through whatever the situations are that they're going through.
Come on.
And so the programming piece is one aspect of what we do at Making a Difference Consulting. The therapy piece or the trainings that we do for professionals is another aspect of what we do. And so we do a lot of professional development, whether it's for parents to help them and educate them on just different ways to interact if they have a child that has a disability.
Right.
Or just in general, if they're a grandparent that is doing kinship care, what are the resources that are here? Right. Allowing them to just understand what's available for them and to them, to their families. So we try to make sure programming, whether it's for the adult, whether it's for the professional, that is something that they can walk away with. Absolutely. And say, I learned something more about mental health, or I learned a strategy to be able to help me with the young people that I'm working with.
Right. Oh, yes. So needed. And how many times have we said that too, that like, you know, in school, I wish we were learning, you know, more practical skills like that, things that I could take away, things that I could really apply in the rest of my life. It's happening now, y'all. You know, so this is the creative way, like, and it is, because I think those are definitely skills that we could still be working on as adults. You know what I mean?
Should definitely
like,
be.
exactly. Lifelong. That's a lifelong thing to be able to do. So like the fact that we can equip those skills early on, come on, it's definitely invaluable to be able to do that and start that. So I love it. And I agree with you. I think that it makes sense that, I mean, I would probably feel similarly, of course, with programming. Like, it does. It makes you come to life, like being able to, and get to know the students on that level, too. Since we're going to be having those kind of discussions, you definitely get to know the students on a more intimate level in that way, but then also help cultivate, like, these beliefs. I mean, because if we are going to help them and really see the world in that new lens and, like, equip them, like you said, to see relationships in a healthy mindset with a different perspective, we definitely got to start with that, you know, and equipping those skills.
Yeah. Having those conversations, but skill building is going to be key. Right. And also, too, like, if they come in already because maybe they've experienced trauma. Right. Or they are bringing in a certain type of mentality because of how they grew up. Right. Not shaming them for that.
Oh, Lord, yes.
And meeting them where they're at and allowing them to express, because sometimes they'll say, well, this is how my grandma act, or this is generational, like this is just how we do. Yes. Yes. But not making them feel bad about it, but then saying, okay, is this what you want for you? Correct. Is there something else that you want for you that maybe you can't see it because you're just stuck in this area?
Right. I know. And I love that. I love being able to challenge them on that, because it's also like, are you the same person, you know, that you were, you know, raised by? Like, are you just like your parents, or would you, or is it okay to actually give yourself permission to live your own life your way? Because you're different. You have like different skills you have. And even if, you know, if it hadn't been, because unfortunately trauma aside, even if it wasn't for that, they already you have different qualities and characteristics that are different than, you know, your family members. So it's okay to now form your own path, you know, and be able to do that. But definitely the trauma piece can't be ignored because unfortunately a lot of our students, I mean, it's hard to find anyone that's unaffected by trauma. Let's be honest. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's there. And so, like, I think what's better about it is definitely that recognition of it, you know, and just simply, like you said, just really just saying that we know it's there, you know, and just, but now what can we do? Like, how can we overcome it? Like, and how can we not be defined by it, you know, and not let that be the, you know, just a part of our story, not the whole thing.
It definitely shouldn't be the whole thing.
Yes.
It's a piece.
Right.
And there is a message in the mess. But then it's also taking that message and defining who you become from that mess.
Right. Yeah.
Ooh, yes. So you have the choice to decide when you want to heal, if you're going to heal, what you're going to heal from. But then saying, okay, this is my path, a piece of my path, but what's next for me? What do I want? What else do I want?
Right.
What do I dream about?
Yeah, exactly.
What was my dreams before somebody may have crushed them?
I know. Exactly. It made me doubt myself that I couldn't even do it.
Exactly. Like,
seriously.
Because there are people that are dream killers.
Right. Well, in that part, because also shout out to the fact that, I mean, I do think it was a great pivot, so I think it was a blessing in disguise that you did end up here now as a mental health professional, but you did mention that you actually heard some messages that actually deterred you from being on that. That is, you know, and that's a big thing. Like, how many others have also been in there? Because I think it was dope. Like, you're trying to be a doctor out here, you know what I mean? So, like, you know, and do all that, and then for someone to discourage that, you know, it's just not even, but it does happen, like, every day.
It happens, and you know what, though, too? When I reflect and think back on why I wanted to become a doctor, it wasn't even my idea and thought. It was placed on me.
Look at that.
So it was, your grades are so great. My family wanted to have the first doctor in the family, one of those kind of
before.
things. Yeah, so it was a little bit of pressure that way. And I just was like, this would be dope. I'm going to be a doctor. Like, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to be a doctor. I had a full ride. So it was more, I was valedictorian. It was more of like, it makes sense.
Yes, it fits.
Yeah. But the more and more I thought of it, it was a blessing in disguise. I just hate that it happened that way because it was a form of oppression and discrimination. But it got me to my true path.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you need to be here. So, yes, right. It worked out the way it needed to.
It did.
And speaking of that, so I love that you do programming because that is how we met. And so, so we were at school, and that's what I love. So it was definitely pretty evident from the time you came in, but you were definitely a blessing that was given to me, y'all. So shout out to all the great districts that are around, including Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and a proud product of it. That's what I'm saying. So hello,
me too.
That's what I'm saying. Alumni, then we gonna toot that. But I definitely love that now they have these great, opportunities where they're bringing in more mental health, services, and they're seeing that need, like we were talking about, and these gaps that need to be filled. Yeah. And so it was really great because unfortunately in my school, there was a student that we lost. And so, and it was earth shattering, especially to have gotten that news on my birthday. Like I might have mentioned to you all already. I'm definitely still, processing, that it's nothing super easy to be able to like come to terms with. And I mean, that is how grief works. It's just that we can learn how to manage it. It's not necessarily that it disappears, but we learn how to do that. And so you were brought to me as a resource. So it was told to me that there are people you can bring in. Like if you would like to have more mental health services, especially for students who also might be grieving, are you interested? So that was a for sure, y'all. Like it was nothing I had to think about. Like I knew for sure I wanted that, but then I got the pleasure of being able to see you in action, with the students. Yes. So that happened. So, how was that for you?
For me, the process was absolutely amazing. It was one of the groups that I talked about the most.
Oh, great. Oh, look at that, y'all. Hey.
Yes. And so anytime it was time to share in our mental health meetings about the progress and the ups and downs and any growth that we saw, I always mentioned this particular grief group because I could see transformation occurring and to be able to see students have an aha moment. Yes. And make a connection and say, I really didn't want to do that activity last week, but this is what I learned from it. Right. And it helped me do this and this. So to see that, it was amazing. But also too, when you think about grief, a lot of times it's not a group that people enjoy.
Yeah, no. We embrace that group.
It's like, it's not something that you enjoy, but for me, it was something that I was grieving at the time as we're doing this group because my dad had just passed away. And so for me, it was a healing piece in that to be able to teach and to watch the students transform, but also recognizing too that I was already at peace with my dad's transition. So this particular group was one that I just was like, this is just an amazing group of scholars. Just amazing to see them support each other.
Right.
And they may not all have been the best of friends with each other, but there were pockets of that.
Yes.
And to see them support each other as a whole, or if someone was missing, they would say, well, can I take this for this person that wasn't here, and share the information and activity. And to have you, Santana, just be there
thank you.
and just be a support and advocate for the scholars, but to see the love that you poured out to them,
I appreciate it.
It was just amazing for me. And that's what I talked about. Just to have someone that was supportive, and they have their person in their building. So to see that, it's just amazing. Like, everybody needs a Santana in their building. They do. They do. We need more mental health advocates that are of color.
Oh, yeah.
Serving those populations, the most vulnerable populations that sometimes are hesitant for mental health services because they may not connect.
Right. No, that's very true.
And it may not mean that the person is not good for them.
Right.
They may sometimes have a guard up where it's blocking them, the person that's receiving the services, from being able to receive.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So
we can't say that enough.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
See, and I do agree. I definitely felt like so similarly. I'm glad that it felt similar for me on the healing level. So it was definitely great to be able to do that with them, essentially. And that's what they do a lot. I mean, these students, they teach us a lot in the process. They were going to humble you, y'all. So that's what I'm saying. If you have not worked with youth before, like, it's incredibly rewarding in that way, to be able to see that, and like the great lessons that they can like give you as well. But I do agree. I definitely think it's just a caliber. And I do think everybody brags about their kids. So here we go. Of course, I think my kids are great. I'm like,
they're great.
You know what I'm saying? But I agree. But also, like, our youth in general are pretty incredible. Like, and so, you know, and then I think, like, no, I do agree though. Some of them, if they can do the bare minimum and they can get away with it, they're gonna try. But if you challenge them, they're gonna rise to that occasion. Definitely. And so that's what's been fascinating to me, because they'll definitely confide in me that, like, oh no, I don't always like my schoolwork. I don't always, you know, they don't see the value in it right now and all those things. But we can have a conversation about like things that are happening in the world and all that, and they have all these insight to share, and like they look at it from like introspectional, like, you know, intersectional lens, and I'm like, wait, look at y'all. Like, wait, let me find out. Yes. And it's just, and it helped me realize they really do observe a lot more than what they always say, you know, and they may not always share it, you know, unless they feel trusted enough or like comfortable and safe to be able to share that. But if you let them, they have so much to offer the world.
They definitely do. And let me say this, if you go work with kids, and your passion is not there, and they can tell you're going through the motions and you're not genuinely invested, they will tell you if your program whack.
Yes, they ain't gonna hold that back now.
They will not hold it back like, oh no, I want to go to that, it's boring, or it's whack.
Yes.
Like, they will say that. And so, I mean, you can't take it personally.
No.
You may not be for everyone, so you can't take it personally, but it will challenge you, especially high school, to step your game up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you gotta be on your P's and Q's, y'all. Yes, they gonna notice. I agree. And that's also what's been great to see, is that because they are great judges of character. And so I feel like, and they get, and I already think they already get discredited enough, you know, that they don't know a lot of that. But nah, you gotta give them their credit, because definitely they do know, and they know what's good for them. And I love that. And I love to see our youth advocating for themselves.
I do too.
Yes. Like, yo, step up. They do it better than I did at their age, to be honest. I was like, hold on, I feel like I was a little bit reserved compared to y'all. Like, you gonna tell it like it is, you gonna ask for what you want. Like, but I love to see it. Yeah. Because they do deserve it.
They do. They do. They are very bold.
Yes.
I know at one of the schools, the students organized a walkout. Okay. And it was a walkout against violence. And I know that the principal got wind of it and decided to kind of hightail their walkout.
Oh, no.
And so I kind of felt bad about it, because these students had really organized this, and it was going to be a demonstration and all of that. And then they made it a fire alarm. Like, we're walking out in solidarity with you. And it's kind of like,
don't do that. Right.
Yeah,
how you gonna hijack?
Don't hijack it.
What
like,
they got going
so
on?
I'm sure those particular students are planning something else for
Yep.
their demonstration. But I love the fact that they're going to stand on their beliefs.
Yes, exactly.
They're
Nobody gonna
stand
get in the way.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's a great component.
Oh, yes, definitely needed. So, yes. So, I love, and that's what we need. So, I love that as you are heard, there's so many topics to be able to, like, touch on with them. And I love that for us, in the process of them talking about grief, because grief is complex in and of itself, and there's so many things that you can grieve, they ended up talking about a lot.
They did.
Yeah. They, like, really went through those processes. And even by the end, the things that they were able to take away were, like, phenomenal to me. I was even, like, astounded to hear
I was
that.
like, You go.
Right,
You
exactly.
go.
And you tell them. And I think that that's something great for us, like we said, to be able to do that, to like give yourself permission to grieve the things that you are grieving in your life, you know, and it's okay to feel that, you know, and to not always be all right with that, because it is, you know, some days it's gonna hit you like a ton of bricks, and other days you may be okay, but like that doesn't mean that you're not doing it the right way. Like there is no particular process. No, there isn't.
It's no right way, definitely, and taking your time. So, like you said, acknowledging where you at. Being mindful in the moment of your feelings, your emotions.
Right.
But giving yourself permission to feel like that. Oftentimes, especially if it's tears that's coming and we feel sad, we hurry up and try to get ourselves together. It's like, I don't want to feel this, but it may be what your body needed.
Yes.
You may need to release those toxins. You may need to let those tears flow and just feel it, and give yourself 3 days.
Yes.
Say, if I feel like this for 3 days, maybe I'll get it out, but then I'll pull myself to the next level if I need to, and just get myself together or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. And I also want to shout out the fact that a lot of times when we cry, the main thing I'll hear people say is, I'm sorry. Like, you need to apologize for your tears. You never need to do that, you know? And I think a lot of times we feel like we have to pull ourselves together, like you mentioned, or that we've done something wrong. And it's like, no, you haven't. Right. Because your body's doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
In that moment.
You know it. And if it doesn't escape then, it's going to find a different time to come out. So you
definitely will. Oftentimes, I tell people, too, like, when you suppress your feelings, you building them up. So as you think about a balloon and you're blowing air into a balloon, that pressure is going to compile and compress and come on to eventually it's going to explode. Right. And how it explodes and how it leaks out to other people could be through anger. It could be through self-harm. It could be through violent acts. It could be through just shutting down. Right. And so that's why the expression is so important, to be able to express, but feel how you feel, so you don't have a breakdown, so you don't leak out onto other people and hurt other people because you're hurting. Right. So being able to recognize, like, okay, I need help, or okay, I need a mental health day today. Mm-hmm.
And that's okay to do it.
And it's okay.
Right.
And not to feel guilty.
No, not at all. You don't owe anybody anything. You got to put yourself first. So definitely that. I agree. And so I'm also curious, like, so for those who may be considering, like, also similarly to either get in this field, to do the kind of work like what you do, if you had any advice for those people, what advice would you give them?
So my advice would be shadow somebody, interview somebody that maybe in the field already. Right. But really, if you're going to be in this field, making sure that you yourself have been in therapy, because you may be bringing some baggage to the table, some trauma that you thought that you've worked through that may become triggered as you are starting to work with other people. Right. And so you definitely want to be able to make sure that you're okay before you start working with others. Amen. But the best therapists are those that have gone through something. Yes. And they become so relatable because they have had something that they've gone through. So it's not just textbook. Right. It becomes authentic and real. Right. And so being able to just be who you are in this space is important, but making sure you're not oversharing. Yes, exactly. Once again, balance is always key, but your authenticity is definitely your currency, so you should definitely do that and, lead with that. And again, knowing that the right audience is going to appreciate you for it, including kids, and they will definitely recognize that. So that's awesome. And I guess the only other thing I was curious about too is that what lies in store in the future? I know you're already doing great things and all these wonderful things, but are there things on the horizon? For the horizon, taking it to the next level. Okay. So I see myself on stages. I'll be on the stage. Let's go. Talking to a group of women professionals just about leveling up and managing their time. Right. So doing more and more community engagement, large scale activities, but then also too, more on demand trainings and being able to actually train and cultivate the next counselors, social workers that are coming into the field, working with young people, or maybe going into private practice, but helping them with their skill building. Oh, yes. So that's the next level for me. Okay. Yes.
Very, very good. So, yes. And if people did want to connect with you more, find out more, or tap in with you, how can they do that?
They can reach me on social media at Teen Talk Guru. Okay. or they can reach me on all the other platforms under Angela C. Flowers.
Okay, look at that, y'all. Hey. So yeah, y'all should definitely tap in, because if there was definitely anything that like resonated with you or that, you know, you took away, obviously you have somebody that like genuinely like not only does the work, but obviously loves to be able to help others and wants to continue to empower. So you should definitely take advantage of that. And I know I sure am. I'm so glad to have someone new and like in my network. Absolutely. And so like I definitely love that the way that happened. It was obviously things always work out the way they need to, but I just always love when, you know, that does occur. And that's why I'm so glad that, you know, you have extended, and honestly it has been. So like even you being here today, this is definitely, you know, it was definitely an offer that was extended, but I'm just so glad that you know, were able to take up on that. And that, like, and honestly has been so supportive of so many things. Like I could ask, there's no question I have been able to ask that has gone unanswered and all of that. And that's what I need y'all to take advantage of. When you meet somebody, you know what I'm saying, and there's a potential person. So when I had told y'all a couple episodes ago about mentors tapping in and like growing your networks and your circles, this is what I mean. Because the minute I met you, I was like, oh, you're doing things that I would love to learn more about, you know, and I would love to follow in the great example that you have set. You do it so genuinely. It's so authentic. Yeah. And it just like exudes from you. So like, could I possibly learn from you? Let's go.
And I said, let's go. When we meeting?
Yes. I love that. You're gonna win. So yeah, so I encourage everybody else to do that as well. You know, please, you know, encourage your youth if you can, but also encourage yourself, you know, so whatever you can do, because of course, when we're talking about all this violence prevention, it's also let you know how you can put your own needs first, you know, and that in order for us to live in a violence-free world, it includes us also loving ourselves, you know, so we can't forget about that in the process of doing this work for everyone else.
Definitely, your self-worth is so key, because when you love you and you know that you're worthy, you're not going to accept certain things.
Oh, amen. Let's go.
Whether it is verbal abuse,
physical
abuse, sexual assault, sexual abuse, like you're going to say something about it. You're going to advocate against it. You're going to speak up and say what has occurred, you know? And so love you.
Let's do it.
Love you.
Every single day of the week. So let's do that. So thank y'all as always for tuning into this episode. Any episode that you have ever like listened to or supported, your support is always so wonderful. And not only, you know, this edition, but again, you know, every other Friday tune in, because we're gonna bring you some more things. But thank you as always for now. And any of the feedback you have, please tap in. You can find Santana Says on any of the, you know, podcast platforms and YouTube, but also you can find me on Instagram with Santana Says with 1_, or you can tap into on Facebook as well. So I'm there. So I would love to get your feedback. Let me know how things are, any ideas you have, whatever else you need. But thank you as always. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.